podcast, Stadium Journey. Why am I mangling the French language? Because today's Stadium Journey podcast is sneaking across the border and we're visiting the great city of Montreal. Hey, 4 years of French 35 years ago. I thought that was still pretty good. So even in Canada, we're proud to be part of the VOC Nation Radio Network. And remember, if you can't get enough of Stadium Journey after you listen to the show, head over to the website, stadiumjourney.com. You'll find over 2,500 stadium reviews. Hopefully we can start updating them someday. News items are there, more podcasts, all kinds of stuff. Book reviews. Dave's done about 1 billion of them. Or you can follow us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Like us, follow us everywhere, all across the board, everywhere. And after you are thoroughly entertained by the podcast tonight, you might feel the urge to check out our old episodes. It's easy to do. Just go to the podcast search app. He tried to say yes, app. Whichever one you use, type in VOC Nation Radio Network, or just go to the Stadium Journey website, look under the podcast tab on the main menu. That'll link you there, over there, boop, 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 beep, pop, boop, and you're there. And all of our old video podcasts are on the Stadium Journey YouTube channel. We also stream live. Some of you might know this because you might be there right now. We stream live every episode, twitch.tv/DanLaw83. Again, welcome to everyone watching right now. Don't be afraid to participate. Speak up, raise your hand in the back,
Don't be afraid.
And let me take a minute and introduce, he tried to say, our starting lineup. We've got Dave Cotney. You can follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez can be found online at Ballpark Hunter. Our producer, the above-average comedian, Dan Calachico, is online at DanLaw83. And I'm Paul Baker. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. Like I said before, tonight we're going to talk about the great sporting venues. Well, maybe they're not great. We'll talk about the sporting venues in the great city of Montreal. And we can't have a conversation like this without bringing aboard a ringer. So please welcome back to our show, our old friend, Tim Capper. Tim, thanks for coming back.
Hey, bonjour, bonjour. Comment ça va?
Much better.
Comme ci, comme ça.
How about you?
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Ça va, COVID.
I'm not even good. Bon année. That's about it.
So, Tim, we were going to do this show, about like a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
And it was like the day of the show. News broke about your favorite project, the Arena Football League. So we called an audible, and we ended up doing a show about the Arena Football League, and we just haven't got back to Montreal. So I'm glad we're finally getting back there.
I'm glad you're here virtually, even though you can't actually come over the border. It's okay.
Well, some of us are already across the border.
That's
Some
true.
Trump fans are going to be leaving.
I'll be honest, I don't even know if I'm allowed to cross that border. I don't
What
know
are you
if I'm
doing in
allowed to cross
Quebec?
from Ontario to Quebec.
You cannot be here.
So
No, I think it's everybody in Atlantic. We can't go into Atlantic Canada.
So is it like in Canada? Is it like it in the United States where some people are following the rules and other people are just like, yeah, I'm going to just go where I want?
Yeah, everywhere.
Toronto and the surrounding areas are pretty bad right now.
Oh, yeah, our area is really bad, too. I mean, yeah, we had a trip planned. We were going to go to New York State, go up to Lake Placid for 2 days. And we were just like, no, we got to cancel it because it's just too bad.
Yeah, no, it's, Quebec's the epicenter. Montreal has, I think, it's the most cases in the country. It's horrible. It just, people just need to listen. They're not trying to tell you something just because they want you to do it or they want anyways. Wear a mask. That's all I gotta say. Wear a mask. Keep your distance.
So good that it's not just an American problem. That it's everywhere. People are just stupid everywhere.
Except Australia and New
Stubborn.
Zealand.
Oh
I
yeah,
call them stubborn, not stupid.
Just the other day, I think it was yesterday, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League has been attempting to sort of run, and the Maritimes, those teams have been doing okay, and basically all the teams in Quebec that are within any sort of like metropolitan area, outside of like Rimouski and the Arctic Quebec teams, have been having a hard time, and they just announced the other day they're going to do a 10-day bubble in Quebec City, where I don't know. I guess they're going to play like a kiddie tournament almost. They're going to just play nonstop for as much as they can at the Videotron Center, and everybody's going to be in a bubble, and they're just trying to get their games done some way somehow.
Kind of like
That's
how the Canadian teams are trying to do it for the MLS.
That's what COVID was, a conspiracy to get more hockey into the Videotron Center since the NHL won't do it. Got it. Got it.
Oh, as much as I'd like to talk about Quebec as a great city. We're not here to talk about Quebec. We're here to talk about Montreal. So, I was thinking, all right, what do I know about the places in Montreal? And you know what's funny? What I thought about were places that are no longer there or just aren't really being used. I thought about Olympic Stadium, and I thought about the Forum. So maybe we should start our conversation there.
Well, there's really not much to talk about the Forum. It's currently the Pepsi Entertainment Center or whatever it's called, and it houses a movie theater.
Mm.
But they did a good job. You go into the center, and they redid the center ice quite well with some old seats. So it's really done really well, and they get a bunch of memorabilia on the upper levels. But it's kind of sad. But they had to do something, especially when they moved over to the phone box or whatever the hell they're calling it now.
As a tourist, it's definitely worth a go. Last time we were there, we went and saw, it was over a March break, and we went and saw Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the guys at the hotel, how far the Forum was. And they said, "Why do you want to go there?" I said, "Well, I want to go to the movies. I want to go see Black Panther." Like, well, there's a movie theater, a block this way. I'm like, I don't want to go. I want to go to the Forum to see Black Panther. I don't want to see it over there. And yeah, Tim's right. Like you could spend, if you're a memorabilia kind of junkie, you could spend a long time just staring at the walls of all the
There's some pretty
old
cool stuff.
articles and pictures, and not just. Of course, there's a lot of Canadiens stuff, but there's lots of stuff like you would have saw it at the gardens, at the old Maple Leaf Gardens. Lots of pictures of other big events. Circus. I think they had one with, I think the Pope came there or something like that. Or
I'm trying to remember. Did the Beatles play at the Forum?
I believe they did. Yeah. So lots of that kind of stuff. Not just Canadian stuff, but and you could just spend tons of time there. Some good photo ops. They have a little sort of seating area you can sit beside I think is it a Maurice Richard statue they got in there?
Yeah. But there's also a
kinda,
fan, a fan in the stands.
Yeah,
out.
that's what I'm thinking of. The fan in the stands.
But the only reason really to go there is to see, the display on the RHI Montreal Roadrunners. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
RHI. I actually went to a game back in.
I went to their the Roadrunners Championship Series versus San Jose all those years ago.
The Rhinos? Is that what they were called?
Yeah.
Oh, I know those names all these years later.
Yeah.
The Beatles played the Montreal Forum on September 8th, 1964.
There you go.
21,000 people, and it was their only visit to Montreal.
Yeah.
They were big. They were pretty big, I heard.
Well, were they?
I heard the Beatles were okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Paul McCartney?
Is the Forum kind of like, people romanticize those old arenas, the Olympia and, the Boston Garden and all those. I was able to go to the Boston Garden, and it was a dump. There's no choice about it.
Most of these places are.
So that was my question, was the Forum, as much as it's pumped up and hyped and everybody says how great it was it a dump as well? Was it a product of its era?
It had charm. I've been to many arenas that have had charm. They may be old, people may call them decrepit, but they have charm, and that's what the Forum had. So it's, again, it's a shell of its former self, literally. So, but it's the few times. It's funny. I never went to a game. I don't think at the Forum for hockey, of all things. So
well. I did go to a game for hockey in Montreal in 1993. I was up there for the long weekend with my mom and dad.
Was that the hooker story, Mark?
No, that was in Winnipeg. Oh. A few years later, where my mom also was there. She told the lady, "Excuse me, young woman, please don't proposition my son." So, yeah, true story. And, of course, it's Winnipeg in July, so it's, 10 o'clock at night. And in daylight, so
Portage in Maine
was even funnier. But no, this was Montreal, and This was Montreal in October, and there was a gentleman selling tickets, and I think it was like $40-$50 for a ticket. And my mom said to me, she's like, if you're in Montreal, you have to see a hockey game. And I'm like, oh, Mom, that's too much money. She's like, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. And wow, one of the best experiences I've ever had was stepping foot into the Montreal Forum. So I'd like to thank my mom, for being very generous and allowing me to go, because I thought that was too much.
Not so much for the hooker.
No, not so much. For the hooker, it'd be a really good price. But, I think I was about 17 at the time.
Did you have seats or standing room, which was very prevalent at the Forum?
I had seats and was in back of the Montreal bench. So Patrick Waugh, Kirk Muller were very close to me. I remember I'm a Devils fan, so Kirk Muller was somebody that I used to like to watch growing up. And I remember like, wow, this arena is different, because, I was used to going to games at the Brendan Byrne Arena in New Jersey and the Spectrum even. And this one just was very small, very narrow. You were cramped up on top of the ice, and the place was packed. And whenever they scored a goal, the horn, the fans, the Stanley Cup banners hanging up, it was a magical place. You really, I never, I go to certain venues and you feel something. That's one of the few venues that you get this sort of gushy feel, like you're walking into someplace very special. And, I've been back when it's the Pepsi Center, and it's kind of cool to walk around. But, to see a game there, truly, truly a magical night for me. I was a young man. I had my Devils jersey on at the time, and there was a lot of people that were not giving me any hype because, Jacques Lemaire was the coach, and we had Marty Brodeur in goal, Montreal boys. So you had that sort of pedigree of hockey knowledge from the fans. Hey, you know what? You're wearing a Devils jersey. They probably don't care about Devils fans, but, you got some of our boys on there. So
it wasn't that they were better than Philly fans, so they didn't care.
They didn't care. If I had a Toronto Maple Leaf jersey, different story.
Because it was in Francais.
Yeah.
Before Dave interjects, I just want to say one thing to add to what Mark was saying, because I'd never been to the Forum, but I just wanted to add on to what Mark was saying and what you were saying earlier, Tim. And I know you don't speak favorably of what they've done with the Forum. Mm-hmm. But I just want to interject and say I appreciate that, and that will be somewhere I visit in the future, because it's there and they repurposed it.
Oh, I don't mind the homage. Like I said, I remember when they were redoing it, they basically tore everything down to a complete shell, because they had the parking, what was parking below, and it was just a giant shell before they started to redo the entire thing. Yeah. It's nice what they've done.
No, I wasn't. I didn't mean it like that. Take this ride with me. I just wanted to say the reason. The reason why I say that is because I love that they did that. They did that recently in DC with the Uline Arena. Speaking of the Beatles, the first concert they played in the United States, other than the Ed Sullivan Show, was at the Uline Arena, right next to the train tracks in DC. They gutted it, and it's a store. But it's there. The facade is there. You can still see, holy shit, this was the Uline Arena. I would have killed that for the Spectrum. This was the point I was getting to. I would have killed that for the Spectrum to make that into something, because the idea they had was they were going to build this entertainment complex, and it was originally going to be incorporated, and then they get rid of it. They didn't even mark the grounds it was on. Mm. So I just want to say I envy you and Montreal that that's still there. And you can walk to it and go, you see that, kids? Right there is legend.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'm so jealous of that. It makes me mad, because the same thing with I'm not going to track to Toronto, but only found out a year ago doing the show that Toronto's Maple Leaf Garden is still technically there.
And that took forever to put together too.
Yeah,
and that's amazing. It's just amazing to me, and I'm just a jealous Philly fan.
Now, partially a grocery store and a rink.
Yeah, there's a hockey rink in there, and
exercise area.
Yeah, there's the whole thing. But Tim, I was basically saying that I love that idea, and I'm jealous of you very much.
Oh, Dave.
But the Forum, what I remember about the Forum, and it's funny little things. Not only from. Well, I guess I remember this from watching on television, and then actually going. I was also there in '93, So seeing this for the first time live, I always remember looking at the ground level, and they had windows all along the ground level, and you could see the escalators. And the escalators were crossed, and it looked like two hockey sticks.
Yeah.
And I always thought about that with the Forum. I also went, 18, and I don't remember too much. I do remember that they were playing Hartford, and it's probably the only reason that we were able to go, because we were on a school trip, and they were playing Hartford, and it was after 7 o'clock or whatever. So tickets were suddenly available. And I remember distinctly listening to some of the scalpers trying to get people to buy tickets, and people literally walking by laughing, going, "For Hartford? Are you kidding me?" And they would, and then funny enough, Hartford.
Funny enough, that's what they say in Hartford too.
Yeah. Hartford beat the Canadiens that night, and it was kind of funny. But really, that's kind of the lasting image that I have is those two escalators that look like hockey sticks, and that was part of it is it's the same image that you saw on TV, right? You hear Dick Irvin on the CBC talking about whoever they were playing that night, and they show that image of the front, the two escalators looking like the crossed hockey sticks. And, yeah.
So shall we continue along with the Canadiens and talk about where they moved? They moved not too far. Am I right?
It's not that far.
Physically, it's not that far. With amenities, it's probably light years away. The Bell Center.
It's your normal cookie cutter arena. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah,
I would say it looks like Ottawa.
Kind of like the old Vet and Three Rivers cookie cutter type of.
That rum, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So what would make the Bell Center stand out from the rest? Is it just the tradition of the Canadiens, the stuff that they do there? I remember for the 100th year of the Canadiens, they pull out all the stuff, and they did some fantastic ceremonies.
They had some. Well, they also had I think the All-Star game that year. They had, which they keep moving over these, the different type of bricks that you could purchase. That they had this whole plaza that you've done. They have the three statues that are there. They have, coincidentally now, which is in phase 3, it's the Tour de Canadiens. So three different towers of condos that are associated with the. They get to emblazon the name of the Canadiens, so I can only imagine how much those go for. But they do everything there. I mean, considering that, it will always be home of the Canadiens, even though they haven't done as well, obviously, since they were over at the Forum. But everything and anything seems to be done at the Forum now. So it's as an arena, it's okay. I've been to nicer NHL arenas.
It's very large, isn't it, capacity-wise?
I think second or third largest. Isn't Chicago still one of the highest? I think Montreal is up there too. I think it's 20 plus.
Yeah, it's right up there. It's one of the few that are over 20,000.
Yeah. So, and it's packed. Obviously, it's packed, and they do everything there. Again, anything they don't, concerts, you name it.
According to StadiumJourney.com, the capacity of the Bell Center is 21,273.
That's pretty big.
And there's no standing room. Obviously, I think isn't that kind of gone the way of the Dodo in any arena now?
And isn't that a shame?
I'm trying to think. I know Joe Louis had it, and those were $75 about a few years ago, but. I would assume some stadiums have standing room only, just because.
The Rock has stadium journey.
They just added them back at the Wells Fargo Center in Philly.
Oh, really?
I mean,
they just added a whole section where you literally pay to stand in this section. Now there's a little bar restaurant thing, but there's only tables to lean on. There's no seats.
Yeah.
It's literally a standing room section.
You're right there. Boston
that's what it was,
just
the
did
old
same
Forum.
thing.
Yeah.
Toronto still has standing room areas. Now, what in Montreal, what's interesting is that the press box is hanging. right? It's like way, you're right, Tim. It's way
up there.
But it's hanging, and you think it's way up there. It's not as high as the highest seats. There's probably about 6 rows of seats behind the press box, but because it's hanging and because it's forward,
right?
It does it. The engineering is pretty excellent. Like it does not block the view of the fans that are
it's
back
true.
there.
That's anything that I go there, I usually get the higher seats anyways because I can't afford anything farther down. But yeah, it's true. You get a good view of whatever you're looking at, whether it be ice, basketball court, lacrosse field, you name it, you can still see it.
Now you're saying, Paul, what makes the Bell Center special, and I would say that it's just like Boston Garden and Joe Louis and Maple Leaf Gardens and all those other places. Like it wasn't the building that made it special. It was what happened there and the people who are there. I would say this is my experience, and I've been to probably, I think I'm at 21 NHL arenas. The fans, Canadian fans, are unique amongst all of them. So to me, it would be what you would really want a fan to be. There is far less getting up and leaving at a Canadiens game than there is at any other event that I've been at in life. Like, those fans treat sport as theater, right? Like, you go see a show and you're a little late and, they just don't let you in, or you leave and they don't let you back. Not that the ushers actually do that, but that's the attitude that the fans have there. You in Montreal, you're not going to see the same thing on television that you do in Toronto, where the beginning of the second period starts and you see a whole lot of silver seats that are right close to the ice, right? In Montreal, it's about the product on the ice, and that's why people are there. It's not like in some of these ballparks where it's like, well, we're going to hang out and be millennials with Mark and hang at the bar or anything like that. No, it's we're there to watch hockey.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that too. I was in Montreal for New Year's Eve several years ago, and I was with Stephen Key, who writes sometimes for this website. And he's a big New York Giants fan. So we go to this bar, which is one of the official Canadiens bars. And everybody's wearing a Canadiens jersey. All the TVs are on to the Canadiens game. And Steve's like, oh, I want to watch the Giants game. I want to see if they clinch a playoff spot. So we're in this little corner where there's this little tiny TV. It's like the size of this computer. And all of a sudden, we just hear this eruption and this horn and this song and this sound. It's because the Canadiens just scored. Like, we're not paying attention to the game. And it just, if you were tired or groggy, that woke you up. I mean, it was louder than a bomb that day. So it was just really cool. Just being not even at the game, but just being at a bar watching it with Canadian fans. Because you're right, they're extremely knowledgeable. I mean, they're not there to, do what I do, walk around and eat food and talk to people and make vlogs. The action's on the ice, and that's the only thing that matters.
Well, and all you have to do is look up in the rafters. I don't know if you've ever done the tour, Tim.
I haven't, no.
Easily the most arrogant tour guides ever.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Yeah, but just look up. It's royalty. It's the who's who of the National Hockey League. Geoffrion and Beliveau and Dryden and Lafleur and Robinson and Richard. Oh my gosh, Maurice Richard is a god.
Yeah.
In Montreal, like I think Maurice Richard replaced the Catholic Church for a time in importance. Like it's difficult to get your head around how important Maurice Richard was to the people of Montreal and to greater Quebec, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question for the panel. Would you consider Montreal to be the greatest hockey city in North America, or would you give that title to somewhere else?
Oh, sorry.
I think some fans in Toronto would disagree, but
That's why I'm asking the question.
Oh, wait. Would Toronto get mad? Then yes, absolutely.
it's up there. I mean, it's definitely up there.
The greatest hockey city? I mean, what argument do you have against it?
Or part two of this question would be, or does the fanaticism in Montreal hurt the Canadiens?
I mean, when they win, don't they riot? And
No, that's Vancouver. Oh, no, that's when they lose.
That's
I know
what we-
Montreal hasn't won in a little while.
Didn't
they ride in '93 down St. Catharines?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, which is odd. You would not expect that from Montreal or Vancouver fans, but
Wasn't that where they rioted at a Guns N' Roses show too? Montreal.
That was at the Big O.
yes, that's right. Because
I mean, to be fair, I would have
Axel
too,
didn't want to.
Axel didn't want to play. Yeah.
He didn't want to play after getting burned. I thought he got burned.
Hey, you know
No,
what?
that was James Hetfield, wasn't it?
Yeah. Hetfield got burned.
Hetfield got burned, and then Guns N' Roses wouldn't come out.
Yeah, which they could have saved the day because Guns N' Roses was huge.
Paul, I would say yes to both of your questions. To get back to where we were talking about, I would say that Montreal is the hockey city in North America, and I would also say that the fanaticism definitely hurts the Canadiens, and it's so deep rooted in the culture. What other situation would you require a bilingual general manager, a bilingual head coach, right? That's a big, huge deal for the press there, and the press there. Tim, you can tell me I'm wrong. I think the press for the Canadiens is as rough as any New York.
That's about to say it's on par for New York. I agree.
Really, just like their bagels.
We'll get to food eventually, man. Relax.
I have had Montreal bagels. You can get them in Vermont, all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like having to have that bilingual person is so important. Now, I will give one of the persons who is probably underrated that works for the Canadiens. I have no idea what their name is.
That's how underrated they are.
Yeah, exactly. But the guy who does the announcing, he did it in the form. I don't know if it's the same guy or not. Had the talent to make every single person who played for the Canadiens sound French. Whether his name was like Larry Robinson, which is the most Anglified name ever. Matt Snasland. They would somehow
Michel Lacroix.
Matt Snaz. Goes good by number. I don't even know what he was. Number 12, Matt Snasland. They just make everybody sound French.
They do it. You know what? To be honest, they do that for the Alouettes too.
I believe it.
Well, they do that here when you say the word Latino, they go Latino. Every time you say a Spanish name here in the States, I don't know if they do this in Canada. Like Ava Longoria was on talk about the election, and she must have said Latina about 10 times in that Spanish accent. It's almost peculiar when they do that, but so yeah, I guess you can do it in any type of accent, French, German. Be interesting to check out.
So we're talking about how crazy a hockey city Montreal is. Do you all know that Montreal, the Canadiens, actually almost left Montreal at one point in there?
Really?
Yes, I knew that because I listened to the Stadium Journey podcast.
Oh, we told the story before. Damn it! I thought I was. that was something new. Well, never mind then.
Son of a bitch!
I mean, I know they had the Montreal Maroons at one time.
I don't remember this. So tell me.
Was that around that time, the 30s, or?
Yeah, around the 30s or so, and you'll never guess where their destination was going to be.
Saskatoon.
St.
Cleveland.
Louis.
Cleveland. Oh, that's right. Yes, I do remember now. Okay,
yeah, the Canadiens were struggling. The Maroons were on top, and the Canadiens, they were thinking about leaving town, but then I guess the Maroons' business model fell apart, or whatever happened to the Maroons happened.
You know who never threatened to leave Philly? No,
Anybody?
I'm kidding. No, the Athletics left. That was the joke. Was you supposed to say the Athletics?
Oh, that's right, the Athletics.
The
Come on.
Warriors.
Yeah, I was trying to be self-deprecating. Damn it.
The Quakers.
But that was
Quakers, Warriors,
that was
yeah.
also the deal back then too, and it was along cultural lines again because
Yeah,
the Maroons were the English team,
Yes.
right.
and the Canadiens were the French team. So those of you who are hockey historians would know that one of the reasons, if you are facetious about it, one of the reasons that the Canadiens were so good and so dominant is that they basically had first crack at
Yeah, those stupid
anybody
rules. Yes.
in the province of Quebec. So they
Can you
handpicked.
imagine?
They
You were mentioning
handpicked
all those
those
names,
guys.
Dave. And they got all of those by way of that rule.
Just about, yeah. Just about.
Oh, all right. So let's see. I feel a lot better, Tim, about when I thought of Montreal, thinking of the Forum, and then thinking of what we'll talk about next, because I'm sure this is going to take up a big part of our show. All right, let me start before I even introduce the stadium. Is it the biggest white elephant in the history of stadiums? I'm talking about Olympic Stadium.
The Olympic Stadium, considering what it's cost the city and the province. I'm so surprised it's still around. But, you know, to be fair, who knows? If the Expos had stayed, it's very possible it may not be around. But it's also an homage itself to the Olympics, what happened there.
Bruce Jenner.
Yeah, Bruce Jenner, the cost, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a sign, it's a good historical look at the city of Montreal, honestly, between what's good and what's bad with the city.
Well, a lot of people say that it was too far from downtown.
It is.
But when it first opened, everybody was jazzed up about it. I mean, the Alouettes went from playing in the crummy Autostade, attracting flies, to getting 56,000 people. You know, like, what happened? Was that just because they were excited of the new stadium and then it wore off? You know, what exactly happened? Obviously, it's outdated now.
It is. Oh, it's so outdated now. Even for the two, even for the what had been the yearly 2-game series, the Blue Jays coming to play there. But
distance. Let's get back to that.
It's too. I mean, yes, sure. Maybe on a metro stop. It's in the East End. There's so many better things that are out there, and I mean, they made some modifications. I mean, people need to remember too that it used to have a giant track all the way around it. They didn't get rid of the track for who knows how long, and it's just way too far away. Even for football, Alouettes football, I hate Alouettes football there. I hate it, unless it's rocking. I mean, I've been to some rocking games there before. Grey Cups, and the very first game of the Montreal Machine, they drew like.
I remember them.
60,000 people.
World League.
Yeah, to see them play and to play Barcelona of all things. But it's just no, it's not a good place at all. Yes, it has its histories, but I mean, more or less with the Expos and with the certain things that happened in the Grey Cup, the staple game, those type of things. But it's. I mean, I'm trying to remember the last time I went up the vernacular to see the lookout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the roof doesn't open. I mean, look at these stadiums now. You know, look what they just built in Texas. You know,
a big barbecue lid.
Yeah. Look at it's Seattle, Milwaukee. You know, that's
Toronto.
I mean, I'll even say Rogers Center because it was the first of a working dome in North America.
A working dome.
Yeah, working dome. Not a.
But now, Tim, not only to me, and tell me if I don't have my geography correct. Not only is it like way far away from downtown, the Olympic Stadium, Olympic Park, it's not overly accessible by the highway either, is it?
No, you really have to go from the highway onto this, get off to go on some of the I guess the smaller highways
like
to get out there.
You're driving through the city essentially to get there.
Yeah, but there are multiple ways to get there. I mean, you could just stay all the time on Sherbrooke Street and get there. You'll get there.
Yeah.
I mean, or you could take the highway and and get off and out near the old CBC building that's out there, and then go underneath the Jacques Cartier and continue on down. So it's never been a good place,
No.
But what's funny, and because this is stadium related, Saputo Stadium's out there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how are they able to? Is it just like the just smaller numbers that they're expecting, that they're desiring, that makes that work? Because Saputo
soccer's
only
a different
holds
crowd.
20,000.
Soccer's a completely different crowd.
Well, that's true, but I mean,
And the Impact the Impact were they around with the Expos? I'm trying to remember how long the Impact had been around.
Well, the Impact were around in the A-League.
That's right, the A-League.
So they were around in 94, 93 was the first year.
And they played over at the Claude Robillard.
Claude Robillard, which I've been to.
I went to one game there.
I saw a game there as well back in 96.
Yeah.
Back when soccer was in its much different, the MLS and some of these second division atmospheres. But back then it was, quaint. We liked it.
Yeah. But I think for Saputo, it's different. It's a soccer crowd. The Impact are somewhat good, but I don't know. I mean, it's you look at where they wanted to put the new stadium for the Expos downtown. As I said, it's just a giant historical look at the city itself. If they don't have anything over at the Palais de Congrès, which is our convention center, they'll have things there as long as it didn't snow. See, there's so many restrictions now at the Big O. If it snows a certain amount, if the heaters can't keep up on what our so-called roof, they close down the stadium. So what's the point?
It doesn't snow in Montreal at all, does it?
It's come close with. I think they also almost had to cancel one of the Blue Jay exhibition games. They've had to cancel shows that were held there. It's Alouette games. I think even Alouette games at one point, or the Impact, because the Impact actually do use it more. They play there usually at the beginning of the season.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess a little history lesson for some of our listeners who may not be familiar with Olympic Stadium is it was built it was finished in 1976 for the Summer Olympics, and it hosted the track and field and all the big events there. And then it was going to transition into being home of the Expos, and I guess the Alouettes as well.
Yes.
And when it was originally designed, I don't know if anyone's familiar with, our listeners are familiar with how it looks. There's a giant tower that overlooks Olympic Stadium. Now, was that always a part of the stadium?
No, because of the strike that they had building the actual thing.
That's right.
It wasn't completed, I think, until the late 80s, early 90s. I'd have to look it up.
I would have say 88 because I remember the Mets opened up Montreal, and I think Strawberry hit the roof.
Yeah.
Well, and that all ties in because the stadium was supposed to be paid for, I believe, by bonds and so forth, but it didn't get paid off until, within the last decade. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Yeah, within the last decade.
And so it ended up costing multiple times the original estimates.
So they were having games and concerts in this place, and it wasn't even finished?
No, they had the dome.
It was an open air stadium.
The original design had called for, and our one of our listeners, Bat Ash Z,
thank you,
mentioned this, that it was supposed to originally have a retractable roof. Like it was supposed to be designed like an umbrella. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes, umbrella.
But they could never get it to work right, so they eventually had to just make it a permanent dome.
Bat Ash also says that it looks like a white elephant.
It looks like a toilet bowl.
It does look like a toilet.
And is that something they do in Montreal where they put like a pan over your head that has some kind of meaning? You don't know? Okay, I read that somewhere about the stadium, so
I don't know.
But you got to admit, there are very few stadiums out there that have as an iconic look as Olympic Stadium. Like you could make a silhouette of Olympic Stadium and you'd know exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's true.
But
stadiums have a giant tower. Yeah.
But you also look at the cost of how much it ended up costing the people of Quebec, and then I just checked. at the time when it was done, when it was done, 1.47 billion Canadian.
Yeah.
And you look at what
That's
they have
$32
built recently
American.
in Los Angeles for their new football stadium, and what Jerry World looks like in Dallas, how much that cost.
Right.
It really makes you wonder.
Right.
Yeah, that wasn't the original cost of construction, 1.7 billion. Wow.
No. It was supposed to be 770 million.
But
Quite a bit for 1976. Wow.
But also, if you look at that stadium, and what would you say, the 76 Olympics?
Mhm.
Yes. Yep.
It was kind of it was either at or close to the end of an Olympic era, right? Because 84 changed everything. That was the one in Los Angeles. Peter Uberoth was the commissioner, and he basically, like, the Olympics were almost done, almost to the point where they are now, where nobody really wants to host them because the dollar figures were just out of whack. And then it was in 84 where Uberoth kind of turned it around, and suddenly the Olympics were making money. And I'm not sure, had they not seen the disaster financially that the Montreal Olympics was, that they would have ever got to that point.
There were positive and negatives to getting the stadium, including our subway system, and what's funny is that it led to other things like Ile Saint Helene that became because of the subway system, because they took the rocks and stuff and they built their own. So that, and F1 and et cetera, et cetera. So every good and bad thing seems to have a tie when it comes to this one stadium. But I'm so surprised that it's still being used today, and still money is still going into it.
Well, they just replaced the roof, a year or two ago.
No, that's what they want to do.
I thought they had, or no, maybe it cost like $1 million to do
they
repairs on it.
They want to add another roof so we can host games for the tri-hosted World Cup.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
and I think they want to do I think it's another 250 to 500 million. I'm thinking, what's the point?
Does they have to put some natural grass in there for the games?
They have to. The World Cup won't play on turf.
They did for the women's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's the women's, and the men's will not play on turf. I know the women kicked up a fuss.
Yeah.
And that had something to do with nobody else wanting to host either, right? But the Men's World Cup will not be played on anywhere that has turf.
No, they'll probably do like they did before when it was in the U.S. Didn't they?
Pontiac.
Yeah, at Pontiac, exactly, or what they do now in Phoenix or Dallas, or
they can put grass in. It won't last very long.
No,
but, for a short event like that, they can.
Astrodome grass.
Yeah, that's so funny that the Astrodome originally had grass.
Let's face it. Without Olympic Stadium, the Expos would not have lasted as long as they did. Because the history of the Expos is fascinating. Like,
that's a word for it.
Talk about fly by the seat of your pants. It seemed like everything having to do with that franchise was fly by the seat of their pants, right? Like, it was like a couple of guys threw up some stands at Jerry Park, and that was like the stadium, right? Without Olympic Stadium, they would have been gone. They would have been like, the original Washington Senators. Like, they would have been gone. So, the best Expos years were at Olympic Stadium.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I'll agree. I've been to many great games at the Big O.
And I'm with you. I hate the Olympic Stadium is my least favorite place I've ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
The air in there is gross. You're right, guys. I sent you pictures from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame of a seat from Olympic Stadium. You guys are like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "That's a seat from Olympic Stadium. People actually sat on those."
Oh yeah,
it's like a scoop or something.
They had it looked like a toilet. Had like the
They were so bad, and the sight lines were awful. the slope in that place is way too gradual. You have a hard time seeing over the person in front of you. It's just a really, really, really bad spot.
The leading tower.
So people go up in that tower, and you can go in and look around. There's an observation deck. You can go look around and stuff.
Yeah, and they've repurposed some of what they wanted, some office buildings in there recently, and stuff like that, and an Olympic-sized pool at the bottom of it, which is.
I remember that. Yeah, there was supposed to be a pool attached.
Yeah, it's huge. A pool and diving area, and a scuba tanks. And that thing off to the side, off to the upper left, is the Biodome.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be the Velodrome. It's now the Biodome.
Right. It's actually a pretty decent tourist spot to hit.
Looks like a dead fish.
So since we're looking at the pictures for our listeners, now were there supposed to be like cables off the top of this tower that went down?
There are cables.
You can see them if you look real close.
The top.
Well, you see those points. There's like some little black dots.
Yeah.
One of the worst ideas. I don't know how they ever thought of this thing.
What would you have done with the roof when it was just kind of hanging up there?
It looked like a crumpled up piece of Kleenex.
Yeah.
Good description. A very good description. Now, Tim.
Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, I was going to say, Tim. How thankful? How much is U2 like your favorite band?
Oh, very much so.
That is one of the greatest stories in sports history.
And that just the anniversary just passed, actually, just recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
27 years. I'd have to go back and check, see how many years it was. But if it was not for basically what could have been a double booking at the Olympic Stadium when the Owls were still playing at the Olympic Stadium, with U2 booking it, for the concert. Trying to remember which anyways.
Well, and it's U2. Like, they don't just.
No, it was one of their stadium shows. It was one of their stadium shows. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a while to set it up, and it's a while to tear it down.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for them, the Owls would not have had to look somewhere else to host a playoff game that year in the CFL, and they looked to a very dilapidated Mcgill Stadium, Percival Molson Stadium, and the rest is history. So
what a segue. I was going to try to segue it, but it would not have been that smooth. So the Alouettes now are at
Percival Molson Stadium. Yeah, Percival Molson Memorial Stadium. That's the official name. And
let's face it, without that move, the Alouettes are history.
Oh, guaranteed.
They were dying at Olympic Stadium. I don't know if it was the Alouettes were surprisingly good that year, or the Argonauts were surprisingly bad. But
to be fair, 96. I've said this publicly. The ownership group in 96 was an utter joke. If it was for Jim Spiros and Michael Gelfand bringing the team from Baltimore, we wouldn't have had a team, and history, wouldn't be what it is now. But they didn't know how to run a team. If it wasn't for the Wettenall family, thank God for the Wettenall family and the idea of moving and Larry Smith moving the team to Molson like they did, putting together. I mean, the game's on YouTube actually versus the BC Lions. It's on YouTube. You can see what they did. They just had to do whatever they could to make the place nice. And from there, it's one of the best spots to see a CFL game, in my opinion, in the East Coast for the CFL.
I'm with you. It's my favorite CFL spot that I've been to. But yeah, the Alouettes were a surprise. They were not expecting to make the playoffs, and they were not expecting to host a playoff game. Did they end up with a crossover?
No, BC. No. BC was the crossover. No Eastern teams ever made a crossover.
So, like you said, they're scrambling for a place, and they end up going to Mcgill, which had been, almost
it was run
abandoned.
Down. Dude, there was a tree sitting in the Going out of the stands.
That's what makes it awesome. And but the key is that like everybody was at that game. It became like the place to be. It was the event, and you know, they caught lightning in a bottle and decided that they were going to stay there. And you know, it's like it's on the campus of Mcgill, and Mcgill has an absolutely gorgeous campus. Not great for parking, but whatever. No. They've done a ton to bring it up to sort of CFL Major League kind of standards.
10 years. I think it's been 10 years since their expansion, if I remember correctly. I think it's 10 years.
Now I was there kind of at the height when they still had Anthony Calvillo, and you know, they were kind of just at the end of their multiple Grey Cup run, and yeah, it was just a whole lot of fun in a stadium that wasn't trying too hard. It was just in this classic sort of stadium, and yeah, we had a blast. We had an absolute blast, and all those little things that I loved about going there. You know, they don't score touchdowns in Montreal. It's a touché, and they don't tell you to make some noise. They fait du bruit.
Yep. And it's not a first down.
Oh, that one I don't remember.
What do I say?
But all the things that kind of lacked where the Argonauts have played lately were totally there in Montreal.
I like Percival Molson. It reminds me, if you could build a stadium that is the old school look, sort of what Camden Yards kind of did at the time, where that became the place to, you know, it wasn't a cookie cutter type of place where they incorporated old stuff from the city into it. You know, so if this stadium basically right there in the center of the city, on the edge of the mountain, depending on which side of the stadium that you're sitting in, you get different views of the city. Yeah, and it's funny, we're talking about the Olympics. They hosted things that had Percival Molson too for the Olympics. I think it was field hockey, if I remember correctly, and soccer.
Oh, nice.
So there's a lot of history to this stadium. The stadium's been around for 100 years. It's hard to believe.
Well, yeah, Percival Molson was a World War I veteran.
Yeah.
Who died in the line, and left money to Mcgill, and they used that to build the stadium. Like, you know, when people watch on TV and they see Molson Stadium and they think, oh yeah, it's named after beer. No, it's not actually.
Yeah.
But I would say that Molson Stadium also kind of helped the CFL, because there's a bit of a glitch there, right? So the Canadian government is notoriously disinterested in putting money into sports facilities.
Halifax.
Anywhere. But because, and I don't know if this was a financing option for the Alouettes, but because it's on the campus of a university, they could get some public money. This has also happened at Winnipeg, where they have, they're on the campus of the University of Manitoba, and they've got public money for that. It's happened in Saskatchewan, where they're on the campus of University of Regina, and they got money for that. And, you know, they were never going to get public money otherwise, but the idea of being kind of linked to and associated with Canadian University has sort of opened the purse strings a bit.
Yeah, plus at the time, the depending on how you look at history, the streak of 100 straight sellouts at Percival Molson, it was capped at just under 20. So, it's not the size of Regina. I haven't been to the one in Regina yet, the new one. But it has its. I remember we were talking at the very beginning about places that have its charm. It may be old, but it has its charm. Even though they redid the place, with the renovations, Percival Molson has charm.
You know what? The best sort of comparison I can give is Molson Stadium is kind of like an old school college football stadium. It's got that feel to it. It's definitely built like a college football stadium, benches and whatnot.
Yeah.
But also, being built into a hill, and there's a tree in the berm and like all of those kinds of things, which you might look, if you're just a pro person, you go and look at that and go, wow, that's really crazy. But you go to 100 colleges in the States and you'll see that kind of stuff. Maybe not like the Big House or Notre Dame Stadium or something like that.
No.
But you'll see stuff like that in the Mid-American Conference, in some of those smaller conferences where the stadiums are like 30,000 or 25,000 or stuff like that.
Kind of reminds me of, and I don't remember the name of this stadium, and it's the first one that really popped into my head. Percival Molson kind of reminds me of where the Philadelphia Stars play in the USFL.
They played on the campus of
Temple.
Temple or Villanova?
Yeah.
Wait.
They didn't play at Franklin?
Wait a minute.
That wasn't around back then.
Stand by.
Franklin Field, where
Franklin
plays?
Franklin Field.
I remember it having a unique look to it.
Yeah, Franklin Field.
Yeah, Franklin Field was around that.
Yeah.
I was going to say they played at
And the vet.
They were the Baltimore Stars, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah, they were Baltimore.
Yeah, they played at the vet in Franklin. They didn't play at the university at all. You confused me. I was like, wait a minute. No, they didn't.
Or here's another example: Hornet Stadium for the Sacramento Gold Miners.
Sacramento, yep. Yeesh, that was very bare bones stadium from what I remember.
Yeah,
Franklin Field is unique.
San Antonio was too.
Because it looks like they dropped it in a time machine and just left it there.
Well, I think that's the oldest.
Forgot to come back and pick it up.
Huh? Yeah. Oh, is that the the reason why it's so fresh in my mind is I haven't been to anything other than Wells Fargo Center and Lincoln Financial Field since I moved from Jersey to where I am now. But when my father had a stroke the previous year, he was staying at Penn, which is right. It's University of Penn uses Franklin Field. That's who uses it. And right out his window, you could see Franklin Field. So for about a week, I saw that building a lot. And I'm like, and I just stare at it because I'm like, it looks like nothing else in that area anymore. No. Mm-hmm. It used to be right next to the Civic Center, which used to look uniquely because it was so old. But that's been replaced with the Children's Hospital. So you got hospital, Franklin Field. It's so weird now.
I mean, it's Percival Molson. They've had done some upgrades. They don't have the ribbon signage like they do at a lot of the other stadiums now. And they don't have. They just had the one replay board, which they didn't have for years. Pro football without a replay board. That's only been new over the since they've done the renovations. And the cool thing is now the way with it is with the Percival Molson is the way they have it set up. You can literally do a circle. You can go from one end all the way back to your seats. So if you're in one end zone, you walk all the way around up through the grandstand on the south side, walk down the stadium stairs, go onto the track, go through the fan area, and then back to your seats.
Now, is this the point where Tim comes clean and reveals to everybody he actually works at Mcgill?
I just happen to work at Mcgill, so it makes it a lot easier for me to get to the games.
I told you we had a ringer here, guys.
Right. So, can you give us an inside scoop on the upcoming Mcgill team name change at all?
I think COVID has put a kibosh on it. But before that occurred,
Mark's taking notes. He's going to write an article on it.
They did a voting. Some people decided what names that they wanted, and they came up with, it was as of January. I guess the most suggested names were Cardinals, Highlanders, Martlets, which is what the women's teams are going by, Redbirds, which I think is what their baseball team goes by, Red Hawks, Red Thunder, or Royals. So
Royals or Royales?
Well, depending on how you pronounce it.
with the E at the end?
No.
No? Okay.
No. Spelled the English way.
Yeah. Mcgill used to be the Redmen.
Yes.
But they were very their branding, at least from when I remember, could have been different, but they were very Harvard-like in their branding.
Except in the 80s where they were using the headdress.
Yeah, that was way before I was.
Yeah. And I think that's when people were complaining about the team name, they the school was saying, well, no, it's I think it was James Mcgill had red hair or something to that effect. James Mcgill had red hair, and they're calling them the Redmen, and I think people kind of knew that they were kind of grasping at straws, considering what they had done in years past in the 80s for what they're using for their school icons.
Which is interesting because if there's one thing I've learned about Canadian university sports is that the memories, for the most part, are very short. And there is not a ton of celebration that happens for things that have happened in the past. It's just kind of, this is what I know for my 4 years, and then I leave, and then I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So,
and now you have 3 different organizations in Canada looking for a new name.
Yes.
So I guess before we wrap up here, we haven't even talked. Well, I'm gonna jump into Dave's wheelhouse here. How about junior hockey? How big is it around Montreal? And are there any noteworthy old hockey barns in the area that people should be aware of?
Verdun Auditorium.
Yeah. Dan, you'll dig this. Verdun was the home of Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah.
Because the promoter that he worked for was a rival with the guy who had the Forum. Yeah. So for the longest time, Andre the Giant couldn't be at the Forum.
Nope.
So yeah, he was out in Verdun. Yeah, I don't know, the barns and the junior hockey barns in Montreal are all pretty much abandoned.
Yeah, because junior hockey really isn't anything. It's really in the outskirts now in Blainville, Boisbriand, and over at Place Belle in Laval.
Right, and Blainville, Boisbriand was they threw up a little shack. It's really kind of bare bones, but it's fairly new. It's not like, where did the junior play at? Was it Maurice Richard?
I think at one point.
Arena.
At one point, yeah.
Which is close to Olympic Stadium, I think.
Yes.
But back in the day, like all those little places had teams, right? Like Laval had a team, and Verdun had a team, and Longueuil had a team, and there were a ton of teams that were, unless you really know Montreal, you wouldn't know that they were Montreal.
Yeah, this isn't like Montreal is not like the prairies, in Western Canada in any way, shape, or form, where at all.
Right. And your real barns are like in those small towns, going north, right? Like your Drummondville and Victoriaville and up to Rimouski and Baie-Comeau and those kinds of spots. And then Quebec, not having the Nordique anymore, have really sort of grasped onto the Remparts, and they do really well. But Montreal has struggled with junior hockey, and I would guess that, what do they call them, B&B, Blainville, Boisbriand has probably been as good a franchise as has been around in the Montreal area for quite a while.
Yeah, and then the Rocket being here, moving to moving to Atlantic Canada, and then moving back.
Right. Well, but the Rocket are in the AHL, right?
Right.
So they're they're controlled by the Canadian. They're controlled by the Canadiens. I believe they're also owned by. I don't think they're owned by the Canadiens, but they're owned by Molson family.
And they're that little. Placeville only holds 10.
Have you been there?
No. The last big thing that was there besides them was the when Duke came to Montreal for that 2 or 3 game series in Canada.
Right.
Well,
Which true.
Sorry. Placebell was scheduled to hold the 2021 AHL All-Star Game, but COVID has messed that all up. So they're going to host the game in 2022. So I'll be in Montreal then, January of 2022.
See, even I didn't know that.
Yeah, we had it planned. We were looking at it. It was like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, what is it? Banesville, USA, Banesville, Brisebois?
Blainville, Boisbriand.
Yeah,
Patrick Brisebois.
Patrice Brisebois.
Them and the Rocket, and we're going to try to catch the Canadiens on there and hit something on the way up, the way back, because Montreal's not that far from where I live. But I guess we've made our rounds of Montreal. Did we forget anywhere we shouldn't have?
I have. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
No,
I have a question before we go, though.
I was going to say, if for anybody who knows the history of Montreal, is there you guys are just talking about places that don't exist anymore? If you had a chance to go to one stadium or arena that was in Montreal in the past, what would it be?
Rostad, definitely.
Yeah,
that's where I would go. I've done a couple articles on it, and for some reason I have a strange infatuation with it, even though I think 5 sections of it is still in. They moved it to Thetford.
I saw your story. Yeah, I saw that. I would love to go to the Autostad too, because that's at one point where they wanted to put that's where they want to put the new stadium for the Expos or for baseball.
Yeah, they wanted the Expos to play there.
Good correction.
Yeah.
They wanted the Expos to play there, and they said, "Oh, we can move the stadium around," and then they realized that no, it's not going to work out, and they said, well, let's go play at Jerry Park. We'll have a stadium by 71, 72. That didn't happen until – I think the Expos didn't play there until 77, correct? I don't think they played during the Olympics.
I think, it was after the Olympics. Yeah, 69 through, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely Autostat, just because I've read so much about it. It just seemed like such a – let's build this stadium. Oh yeah, what should we do with it now? Okay, let's host the Alouettes.
The Alouettes have been funny. The one city in so many different makeshift stadiums.
Yeah, and they hated it so much that they went back to Mcgill, and then the attendance dropped even further. So then they went back, and then I think their former owner, when he was able to move into Olympic Stadium, just had nothing nice to say. He said that the roofs leaked, the offices had rats in it.
Yeah. I've been in the bowels of the Big O. It's nothing. Yeah. It's nothing. Like I said, it's nothing like some of these newer arenas that I've been into.
No, but one thing about Autostad, it was the first professional football stadium to have the slingshot goalpost.
Yeah.
It was invented in Montreal.
Yeah.
Who knew?
There are others. I'm sure I would want to go to Delormier, I think, if it still existed. Delormier Stadium. I'd like to go to Jari. In 69.
You can still go there.
Yeah. Wow.
Is it still
see a tennis match.
See a tennis match. But there are a few stadiums I would love to have been to. I mean, maybe the first incarnation of the Forum, because what many people don't know is the Forum went through many different renovations.
67 went through some major ones.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I want to go to the Forum in the late 60s, early 70s, and I want to see that Canadiens team with that crowd and that noise. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's old school hockey, right?
Not to 76. 76 we don't talk about in Philly.
Oh, okay.
We don't talk about here either.
Yeah,
or 1980.
See, you kind of rolled into my question is, what do you think the odds are that the Expos return, or that Major League Baseball returns.
The Tampa Bay Devil Expos?
Maybe. I mean, we've heard that the
Devil
current
Expo.
It can't do any worse.
the current mayor of Montreal is open to a new stadium.
Valerie Plante, yeah.
What do you think? I mean,
Well, I know where they
years ago I would have said it's a lock, but now there are a lot of other communities that are kind of popping up, right? You know, like
I saw where they want to have it.
Nashville.
They want to have it
they were
in
talking about.
They want to have it in
Portland.
Griffintown. It's in Griffintown, and that's an up and coming area. You know, with the way that things are going with our new light rail, the REM, that's supposed to be around, I think, by 2023.
Great band.
Yeah, they'll have other ways to get around. See, that was the issue with going to some of these other places in Montreal, is that if they had had the new baseball stadium over at the Peel Basin, which technically this is still the Peel Basin, but it's not on the same side where it was. There's no mass transit. When it was downtown, when they wanted to have it suggested over at the Lipidrome, where Blue Bonnets was, or downtown, I remember the parcel land that they had downtown. So I think sometime in history, I think Montreal will have baseball again. It's just how the team was ripped away by Major League Baseball and the Lauriers. So I think they will. And I think the start of having of Tampa Bay and Montreal doing half a season each, hey, if the experiment works, go for it. Now, have a stadium like Pittsburgh. I've been to the stadium in Pittsburgh. It's a gorgeous stadium.
Oh my gosh, it's the best.
Yeah, that would probably be the type of stadium that I would want.
I'm not sure I'd want to see a Expos game in April though.
You know what? It's like people who complain that why are we watching CFL football in the prairies in November? Because it's football.
But it's once a week.
Well, it's been 70 all week here in Indianapolis, so
yeah, that's true.
Screw Mother Nature.
It was 78 today here.
It's been warm here for the week too. We were in the low 70s.
Kiss
mid-70s.
my ass, climate.
Paul, we
Tim,
better.
I thought you were going to do it in Celsius there.
No.
21.
We were in
24.
the 20s.
Okay, 24. It was 24 degrees Celsius here today.
Woo.
And then
Paul,
we
you
just
better
went-
ask some food questions before we start talking about Philly food again or something.
No. This is the time of the show. We got
Listen,
to wrap it up, Tim.
whoa,
Meat sandwiches.
Hold on. I'm the one that purposely didn't mention anything except for the Franklin Field reference. Everybody else was like, like Philly. So shut up. By the way, have you ever had pork roll? God damn it.
Well, I was trying to wrap the show up in about an hour.
All right, well, we can say that for another day.
Don't
Montreal
call me out,
food.
Dave.
Montreal bagels, man. Love them.
Montreal bagels.
Valentine's.
Philly.
So, Tim, thanks for coming to join us again. I'm glad we finally got to circle back and head to Montreal.
My pleasure. I'll be happy to come back anytime.
Paul, wait, real quick. I'm sorry, Tim. Paul, I just want to say, Bat Ash Z wanted to see your name for the Montreal Devil, whatever. What did you call him again?
The Devil
Expos?
The Devil Expos.
Montreal Tampa X-rays.
Yeah, the X-rays too.
There you go. I thought that
Hey,
was very
that's
good.
awesome.
The
That is
X-rays.
awesome, man.
That's awesome, man.
I love that. I didn't even occur to me. And Pat Ash was like X-rays. I'm like,
So the Mampa X-rays.
Mampa X-rays. Yes, Mampa X-rays. All right, I'm down. I'm buying a jersey. I want to see Expos colors with that ray on it right now. Let's go.
Ooh, I like it. The possibilities, man. Let's make it done. Let's
Call me.
Let's storm the MLB offices, man. Let's go. We got an idea here.
Oh, Manfred. Yeah, well, Manfred and I have a few things to talk about.
So, Tim, do you want to let our listeners know if they would like to follow you on social media, where they can find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on social media over at Repact. That's REPPACT.
And is the AFL fan stuff still going on? I know you are so heavily invested in that for so long.
Yes. I still do. Even with the demise of the Arena Football League, I have transitioned over to an historical podcast now where we talk, because there's so many, like any league and any sport, there are stories to tell, whether you were a player, an executive, a fan, or a cheerleader, as an example. I mean, there are many stories to tell. And that's if you do a search for Arena Fan on any of your podcast, outlets, just look for the AFL Rewind podcast. And
so heartbreaking.
Yeah, but it may. But as Dave will contest to, there are some good stories coming out of this stuff. So.
Yep.
The multi-time Philadelphia Soul. What do I do? No.
Yeah, but other than that, and obviously, since we're talking about Montreal, my Alouettes podcast, that's the Alouettes Flight Deck. And you can follow us at Alouettes FL Deck on Twitter.
Beautiful. Thanks again for coming and joining us, Tim. It's great to talk to you.
My pleasure.
That was Tim Capper. And I want to thank him for joining us once again. And guys, I think Tim has become one of our, he's raising the all-time leaders list, isn't he?
Yeah, sure. That's what's on my mind right now.
He's up there.
Dan, get your mind out of the gutter.
No, that's a highlight. That's going up on a highlight reel someday. I'm serious. That's staying in.
We have a highlight reel?
Yeah, I'm building one.
Short reel.
Well, it's about 5 minutes right now.
There you go.
It's getting longer every week. I'm trying to, hey, let your producer do stuff.
I'm glad to contribute to the blooper reel or whatever you want to call it.
It's just a box.
So this is usually the part of the show where we recap our visits over the past couple of weeks, but, not so much these days. Did anybody go anywhere interesting the last couple of weeks?
No, I'm getting ready to try to go to see a football game at Miami, Ohio in about a month. But that's a month from now.
That's some prepping.
You can never plan too early for Miami, Ohio.
No, you got plenty of time.
Yeah, like I said before, I actually canceled a visit. We were going to go to Lake Placid and wander around. And, if you go to Lake Placid, you can actually go up to the top of the ski jumps and look around at all the mountains and all that good stuff. And we were going to do stuff like that. And they've got a little roller coaster they built next to the bobsled track. We were going to do all that stuff. But with this case is spiking, we just ended up canceling. We'll try to get it at another time. So, Dan, I guess this is where I ask you, where can our listeners follow you online?
Follow me at DanLaw83.
Mark, how about you? Where can our listeners follow you? And your travels to Miami of Ohio.
Oh, you can follow me at Ballpark Hunter on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. Check out my videos every Monday. YouTube, Ballpark Hunter.
And Dave, where can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at ProFan9. Just finished a Patriots book, which is pretty scary. But I got to say,
Patriot fans can write?
It was pretty darn good. Mostly because it was called From Darkness to Dynasty, and it had more to do with darkness than dynasty, and I think that's why I liked it. So if you hate the Patriots, this is a great book.
It was all about, I've got that book. I actually have an autographed copy. Thank you very much. It's about the Victor Kayem years and the Sullivan years and all the horrible mismanagement and all the stuff that happened there.
There's some seriously crazy stuff. And if you didn't think it was possible to somehow include Michael Jackson in the NFL, you gotta check this one out. So Twitter at ProFan9.
Actually, you could actually draw a line from Michael Jackson to Robert Kraft, and Michael Jackson is the reason the Sullivans had to sell, and the reason why the Patriots are now a dynasty.
Yes.
Well, we're a dynasty. Anybody who watched them try to tank against the Jets last night, the dynasty's done.
Barely. It's a bad season when you have to kick a last-minute field goal.
It's a shame that you didn't have like a run of any success at all in the last 20 years. I mean, God, the Patriots are a joke.
They're all lined up on the Tobin Bridge again.
Everybody jump off. It's been, 12 months.
No, the Cannons won a championship like 2 months ago.
It's been 2 months. Jump off.
You can follow all my stadium journeys on Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. Again, don't forget to check out the website, stadiumjourney.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Usually you go to Stadium Journey. What else do I want to say? Find our
Happy
Stadium Journey
Remembrance
podcast.
Day and Veterans Day.
I was going to say that at the end. Dave, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, we said it now.
Yeah, Veterans Day and Remembrance Day. So thank you to all the veterans for your service and your sacrifice. Find the podcast, VOC Nation Radio Network, on your podcast apps. And we simulcast live every other Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern at twitch.tv/danlaw83. We'll return in 2 weeks. What are we talking about? Something. I don't know.
TBA.
We'll figure it out.
And the minor league baseball nonsense.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Yeah, big news today, huh?
They-
Rochester Red Wings no longer a Twins affiliate.
No, Mets, Yankees are dropping teams. St. Paul and Somerset independent
Whoa.
teams are going to.
Be clear about the Yankees. They're dropping teams, but the teams are not finding out until they read it on social media.
That's
Did you guys
exactly
see
true.
the Columbia Fireflies
Yes.
tweeted out today? What, did we just get dumped on Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the press conference for Steve Cohen, correct? That's how they found out about it?
No, they found out on Twitter.
They found out on
Pardon,
Twitter.
pardon my French. Here's your warning. Fuck the MLB and fuck Manfred and fuck them all for letting that happen. Sorry,
Well,
I'm done.
Well, it appears that each club is going to save about $500,000.
Oh, goody!
Which is chump change. But I feel bad for like a team like Staten Island who is going to have to join the Atlantic League. There's no way they're going to recoup the cost of being affiliated independent. It's going to be
I'm
a
not
disaster.
talking about
I don't want to look
cutting the
forward
team.
to it. It's
I'm
out of control.
I'm talking about how,
So tune
not
in
why.
next time to the Stadium
I
Journey
was just gonna say,
podcast
all right,
to
now
hear
we're
what
gonna
we
need
just
to
talked
find-
about.
They'll probably be – everybody will know where everybody is in 2 weeks, I hope.
I was just going to say, now we're going to need to find a new topic for 2 weeks. So,
No, it's going to be a good topic because you're
So
right.
for Paul
you
Baker
should-
and Mark Viquez, I'm not Dave Gutney and Dave Gutney. I'm Paul, please help.
you got us all. Thanks
Okay,
all.
go ahead.
Until next time. Again, thanks to the veterans.